Okay, it is definitely working. Everybody, welcome to Wild Eric's Traveling Podcast. I think I'm going to change the name to just the Wild Eric's Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Scott. I always called him the Transformer Authority. Say hello, Scott.
Hello, Scott.
Yes. We met, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago in a place in Greensboro, North Carolina. It was a mansion with a bunch of hippies and techies and weirdos called the Gecko House. It has since been destroyed, but we used to smoke clove cigarettes on the porch and talk about Transformers and all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's why I brought Scott on the show today. There's so many things we could say.
And oh God, I just realized it has been 20 years.
It has. It's insane how time just flies. You know, but you know what? We still have people with us, like Peter Cullen, the original voice of Optimus Prime. You know,
Yeah.
We lost the voice of Starscream in the 90s. His name was Latta, right? Chris Latta?
Yes.
And he's actually, he was a stand-up comic. There's so many great things that we're going to get into today about Transformers, G.I. Joe. So if you guys are fans of those shows, sit back. Right off the bat, on my mind, I want to get into this because Scott told me this last podcast that we lost because my equipment was fucked. But Transformers ended here shortly a couple seasons after the movie, right, Scott?
Yeah. We had a one full season 3 after the movie, and then there was a season 4 that's really only like 3 episodes or so.
And then you informed me that the Japanese Transformers show went on for another, how many years?
I don't know how many years, but 3 whole seasons worth, or 3 whole series worth afterwards.
Wow. That's great. Now, have you watched these? And what is it called?
Well, the first series is Headmasters. I watched really bad dub versions of that like 25 years ago. And I've just now started rewatching those bad dub versions again because I saw they're on YouTube. So that one is not as fresh in my mind. And then the second series after that is Super God Master Force.
Super God Master Force.
Exactly. Sounds very Japanese.
What a great name.
And then the one after that is Victory.
Quite a change from Super God Master Force.
Yes, which honestly, I had forgotten the full name until we talked last time. Because most of the time, everyone just calls it Master Force.
Right. Well, I prefer Super God Master Force because that's just hilarious. Do you know anything?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the storyline?
Yes. So, like I said, I don't remember a whole lot about Headmasters. I'm about 3 episodes in, maybe 4, and it's just bad. But the Super God Master Force storyline is there's a small contingent of Autobots on Earth that are just kind of like chilling. They're helping with defense forces, stuff like that. And some of the Decepticons have come back. They're attacking them for science-y type stuff than what they usually would do. Hey, let's go in and steal all this energy equipment, stuff like that. So they're going through fighting them, but they're also finding out that there are what's called Transtectors. It's basically headless Transformer bodies that are stuck in vehicle mode. They're going through and finding those, and it's very similar to how Beast Wars wound up being, where, hey, we have this Transformer. It could be Autobot, it could be Decepticon, depending on which human bonds with it to become its head.
Right.
And we have to get them before the Decepticons get them, type of thing.
Right.
Which is a good, compelling storyline, because it's kind of like a race for time of, the Decepticons might beat us before we get them here. And of course, by the end, Autobots win and even turn a few of the Decepticon guys over to their side, stuff like that.
So we know that you said Prime is in the series, right?
Prime is in the Headmaster series.
Okay.
He's sort of in Master Force, but not really. It is technically a different character called Genrai.
Okay.
But he looks just like Prime.
Interesting. Okay. Now, what other characters do we see appear in the Japanese series that we may know?
Well, most of your Headmaster toys that we had in the original line are going to be in here, including the Headmaster Juniors, stuff like that. So you've got, scrolling down to all the Headmaster groups because I can't always remember every single name.
Okay.
So, now a few of these are in the Headmaster series themselves, like Chrome Dome, Brainstorm, Highbrow, Hardhead. But the Headmaster Juniors are like Hosehead, which is a fire truck. You got a Horror Bull, which is a bull.
A what? Like a marijuana smoking bowl?
No, Bull, B-U-L-L, like with the horns. But his name is Horrid Bull.
Hey, I want to smoke some pot. Transform. Transform into a bong. You can smoke out of me, man.
I don't think that one would pass the censors for cartoons, even in Japan, perhaps.
No, we were not there yet.
Yeah. You also have some of the Pretenders. Some of the main characters in Master Force are the Pretender figures. Like the three main bad guys are Bomb Burst and Submarauder and Skullgrin.
That's cool. You know, let's keep those thoughts on hold for a second. I want to mention this. Did you see in the new Transformers preview that Mirage is finally in the series?
I had heard that. I haven't watched too many of the trailers because I usually avoid a lot of trailers for potential spoilers that I may jump to.
Do you keep up with the Transformers movies?
Honestly, not as much. I remember liking the first one.
Right.
Then I watched the second one. And then I forgot I watched that second one, so I watched it again. And then I kind of cut off watching most of the Transformer ones.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of Michael Bay.
Yeah. I will say that the Bumblebee movie, though, has brought me back into watching Transformer movies. Well, that one was really good.
Because Prime looked like Generation 1 in that, and that really was a lot of fan service, and I was happy to see him look like
exactly
he's supposed to look.
Like, it's so sad to me that the one thing everyone was complaining, or the one thing that people would counter with when you complained about, oh, he doesn't look like the 80s robots, is they're like, well, no, look, they designed it so it looks exactly like if you took one of these vehicles and changed them into this. And I'm like, but back in 2001, there was a guy making his own CGI little commercial. And he changed one of the newer Volkswagen Bugs into a robot and had him walk around a little bit, pop out a gun and all this. It looked legit, and that was just one guy doing his own thing.
Yeah, it seems to me
like
that
a fan.
The designers making the Transformers for the first Michael Bay movie were on acid or something when they made, the Transformers. They were just too busy looking and unnecessarily,
And there was no distinctive marks to really tell you, oh, look, that Transformer robot just ripped that robot apart. I don't know who just died.
Yeah. I'm glad they did it. Shia LaBeouf was in that movie, and I always kind of hated him just because I thought he was annoying. I didn't realize that he would later go on to become kind of cool. You remember when he went through that phase where everybody hated him, but now people seem to like Shia LaBeouf?
I will stand by what I've always said about him. I enjoy him as a side bit character in movies. Like in iRobot, great. Same with Constantine. He was pretty good in that.
Did you ever see that praise and worship thing on YouTube where people are singing praises to Shia LaBeouf and they have like a whole
No, I have not.
they have a music video, and at the end they're singing like a big a symphony song or a musical. It's like a musical to Shia LaBeouf, and at the end the camera pans around, and it's only one person in the audience, and it's Shia LaBeouf clapping as loud as he can.
I've seen the gif of him clapping.
And then he's got the
I've seen that everywhere.
He has like the "just do it" thing, where he's like motivating.
Yeah, I've also seen that.
And now back to the Transformers. No, I just wanted to go off from that Shia LaBeouf tangent. So let's go back and just talk about the Transformers in the 80s for a second. We've touched a little bit on the Japanese show because that was fresh on my mind. But let's go over, what did the Transformers... I found that show affected me. A lot of young men were affected by the show. There's a lot of people who talk about how Prime was like a father to them when they had no father. And did you hear that Peter Cullen, how he got the voice for Optimus Prime, was he had a roommate that served in the war, and he modeled the voice after his roommate.
I do remember hearing something about that. Like I think it was something like his roommate said that, the sort of heroic voice is the very sort of stoic one. It's not so much the, come on, man, let's do this. It's more of the just very, not really stern, but, strong, sort of silent, doesn't really jump up a lot.
Contemplative.
Yes.
I always thought that Optimus Prime kind of reminded me of John Wayne a little bit. Autobots, transform. He's kind of like sounds like Wayne, I think, a little bit.
I can see that a little bit. There's a little bit of a twang in there or something, yeah.
So who were your favorite Transformers? Like in Generation 1?
I do not remember as a child who my favorites were. I do remember now, however, my main favorite is Soundwave. And then I have like sort of second and third dairy ones like Skywarp and Brawn. Both of those are because those were my first two Transformers I had.
I always wondered why Bumblebee had those horns. Like he was like a little devil. My mother was like, why do you want the Transformer with the horns? That's like a little devil. And then he had like they said, oh, it's Bumblebee's cousin. It was, what was his name? Cliffjumper, right?
Yeah.
He was like a red Bumblebee, basically.
He was a red small penny racer car, but he was not the same. He was similar, but not the same.
These kids, growing up today, will never know what a penny racer is. When we were kids, there were like these little cars, and you put a penny in their ass, and they would just, I don't know how they would go, but they would just go like on the floor. What do you remember? What propelled them?
I believe it was what they call a friction motor or a pullback motor. I think it was something like that. Like you pulled it back, that wound up the motor.
But why did it need
and
a
then
penny?
when you let it go, well, the penny would let them do tricks. Like depending on where in the slot you put the penny, they may turn left, they may turn right, they may pop a wheelie, stuff like that.
One thing I want to let our audience know, Scott here, the Transformer Authority, is also just a general authority on toys. Like
I know way too much about toys
he's a
than
big-time
any one
collector.
person should.
Big-time collector. And last time, I wish we had the last podcast, but I think it's like chop suey. I'll have to go through it and see what's... We talked about a G.I. Joe, and there was a G.I. You said one of the original G.I. Joes was transparent, and you could see like gears inside of him or something like that?
Yeah, so Hasbro made the original 12-inch G.I. Joe in 1963, and that got exported out to other countries, and Japan took it in as well there, and they made regular G.I. Joes with military outfits and everything. But then a little bit later, they used the molds that they used to make the body.
Right.
And then they made them out of clear plastic, put like a little engine chrome piece in the chest to look like an engine.
Wow.
Chromed out the head and all that, and called it Henshin Cyborg.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, I've not seen one in person, but they do look pretty cool just from the pictures I've seen online.
Scott, let me take you back to a dark day. You remember the day, somewhere around 12 or 13 or 14 years old, where everything was cool. Every once in a while, you'd go to your room, you'd pull out your toys, you'd play with the toys, but somewhere around the age of 12 or 13, you're like, I can't play with my toys anymore. What's happening to my mind?
I think we call that peer pressure.
No, I'm saying, like, I used to be able to play with my toys and have, like, adventures and stories and, make them fight each other. But I just got to a certain point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I guess I became an adult. And now...
okay, I see what you mean, yeah.
And now toys for me are like, I love them as decor, to admire the craftsmanship, but I'm no longer playing with them. Like, this is my story.
Yeah, you no longer have them fighting each other on the carpet and whatnot. Yeah.
April O'Neil was kidnapped. And what I loved about toys was you could take the different fandoms and combine them. So the Ninja Turtles would meet Batman. Of course, we've done that now. There's a movie. But
yeah.
But the thing is, when you're playing toys as a kid, sometimes the ratios are off. Like, when they made toys, like sometimes you'd have this Wolverine figure or a Marvel figure, but then another brand company would make their toys slightly bigger, so you'd have like a giant Captain America and a small Ninja Turtle or something, or a small Casey Jones. Did you ever come across that problem when you were playing with your toys when you were a kid?
Oh, I'm still coming across that problem, man. Case in point, when Captain America: The Winter Soldier came out, I'm primarily was collecting Marvel Legends for the movie figures here and there. And they made a Captain America, and they made a Falcon eventually, but they didn't make a Falcon for that movie. They made them for the Civil War movie.
Right.
And they had a Black Widow. So you could get the three characters, but they couldn't be in all their same outfits. For the Winter Soldier movie, the only Falcon made in that outfit was a what's called Diamond Select figure,
right? And
they're about an inch taller than Marvel Legends.
They just look weird when they're hanging out together. Like, why is this
exactly? I'm looking at them like Falcon's way taller than Cap or Natalie here, and something's wrong.
There needs to be
Natasha.
A standard for the heights of these toys, because when you look at it, you don't want to be like, your brain's like, hey, that's not right. Let me ask you a question. I'm a big Scarlett Johansson fan. How is that Black Widow action figure? Is it nice and attractive?
They've gotten pretty good with Marvel Legends. I think back at that time they were still painting the faces. Nowadays they have a computer screen print the face on the figure. That they're getting to the point where they're almost looking like the actual actor perfectly.
That's what I would hate. Speaking of toys and everything, so one of my favorite series is Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and of course one of my favorite characters is Garak. And you ever watched Deep Space Nine, Scott?
Oh, yes. Yes, a couple times over.
So Garak. So,
yes.
Quark's action figure looked pretty good. Cisco's looked pretty good. Bashir, Q, the character Q, it's in Next Generation. But when you get to Garak, they really shat on his character. He looks nothing like the TV show Garak. So I always hated that. And that happened a lot back with just the old action figures. Sometimes they wouldn't look like the actual show. And the kids, even as a kid, you're like, hey, what is this? I'm getting gypped over here. Like, what is this? But some companies did better jobs than others. I was very happy with the Real Ghostbusters toy line.
Are you talking about the 80s one?
Yeah, the Real Ghostbusters, the TV show in the 80s. I thought their toy line was fantastic. They did a lot of clever stuff with those toys, and then you had the frightening faces where you'd squeeze the legs and they'd go into some crazy facial expression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked a lot of those toyetic gimmicks with that line.
That's great. Let's get back to Transformers a little bit. Let's talk about the movie. You remember the soundtrack? Right when I was doing a test earlier, with you, I was singing one of the songs from Transformers, and it was
Hmm.
"Something Evil's Watching Over You," which was performed by Lion. Because
Yes,
it was cool because the Transformers came out during a time where heavy metal was the style of music that was pretty popular, and the Transformers happened to be literally heavy metal. So
exactly.
so it worked out. Stan Bush did a lot of that soundtrack. I mean, to this day, I still listen to songs like "Dare," "You've Got the Touch." It's funny. Did you know that "You've Got the Touch" is actually in the movie Boogie Nights?
I have heard that. Yes.
Which Mark Wahlberg, who was in the Transformers movie, he's singing that song in Boogie Nights, which is funny because that song didn't come out to the '80s, and I'm pretty sure they made that song for the Transformers movie. So,
Actually, I want to say, I think it was in an interview with Stan Bush I saw, or maybe Vince DiCola, I forget which now, one of the two, that song was originally written perhaps for the Sylvester Stallone movie Cobra,
really,
which doesn't entirely make sense to me. I would think like the song Dare might be a closer to better fit for that.
maybe,
But I think it was, or at least they've constantly said it was the Touch song was originally for Cobra, but then they like passed on it, and then Transformers came up, and he was like, "Well, I'll just move this song over there."
I imagine that happens a lot in Hollywood. But in any case, the soundtrack to Transformers is fantastic. You have Weird Al did "Dare to Be Stupid." Now, I'm pretty sure that's just one of his songs that made it in the movie. He probably didn't make it for the movie. But
No, it was on a previous album already.
oh man, but that was it. It fit into the movie perfectly, and you had Hunger, and it was just a great album. I know I'm a bit all over the place with my
Well, no,
Transformers.
it's great. My brain jumps like that too. In fact, you're talking about the soundtrack. I want to ask you: have you heard of the band called Cybertronic Spree?
Are those the guys that dress up like the Transformers and they do it with cardboard?
Yes.
Wow, yeah. Those guys, I don't know much. I mean, I've listened to some of their music and it was, pretty good. But what's most impressive is how they took these cardboard costumes and made them look almost identical to the Transformers bodies. And it's a work
Yeah.
of art itself. It's incredible. I'd like
And
to see them live. It'd be great.
I got to see them like a month or two ago. Actually,
What?
they came down
Where?
to Winston Salem.
They were in
They came
Winston-Salem?
to an anime con
No.
in Winston Salem.
The next time you go to an anime con, I want to go. Which anime con was it?
I think it was just Winston Salem Anime Con. I think that was the name of it. I forget. I only bought the ticket to go to see Cybertronic Spree.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's crazy because, I used to play drums in high school back in the day, so
Oh,
I
cool.
know how hot it can get. And there's a guy back there in a Shockwave outfit playing drums for the whole concert.
Wow. That's
I'm
awesome.
like, that dude must be like dying of heat.
That's what dedication and passion will get you.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I brought them up because they did release their cover of the entire Transformers soundtrack.
Oh,
And
cool.
They have done like that soundtrack justice. It, in many cases, sounds very close to the originals.
on YouTube?
And I'm not sure. It might be.
Man, I gotta. I'd like to hear that because those songs can really be expanded and whatnot. And I heard the Stan Bush remix of "You Got the Touch," which of course the original's better, but it was still a nice try and a good shot. It's a little heavier. They were going to use it for the Transformers movie, but they went with Linkin Park instead, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But man, I wish I could have seen that show. I actually heard that these guys in Raleigh did the entire Mega Man 2 soundtrack. And man, I wanted to go and see that, but I couldn't make it.
Yeah, that would sound interesting.
Did you play Mega Man? Mega Man 2?
A little bit. I mean, I'll be honest. I classify as a gamer, but I am a casual gamer.
Right, okay.
And the fact that games like Mega Man were way too hard for me if I didn't have a Game Genie.
Yeah, they were. It was Mega Man was challenging. I did pretty good. I beat a couple of them. Mega Man 2, 3, and X. I beat those. But could you imagine a crossover with Mega Man and the Transformers? That would be kind of cool. Because they're machines.
Yeah,
That-
I could see that.
That'd be pretty cool. There's so many opportunities for fan fiction and stories and all this stuff. Because, you want to see these favorite characters kind of cross over. I think everybody wants to see the day where DC and Marvel actually make a Spider-Man, Superman movie or something like that, Crossovers.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. I was talking with a friend of mine at work who's really big into comics, and I didn't realize that way back in the day, I knew that there was a Spawn and Batman crossover, and I had the comics back then, but I didn't think they were very good. Apparently, they have exploded. People absolutely love them now, and I'm like, where was this, back in the 90s?
Wait, it's the same one? It made a comeback?
Yeah, it's the same one. It's just people finally found out about it and jumped on it.
It's funny. There's all kinds of stuff that kind of is under the radar. People forget about. I mean, I used to have the comic Batman versus Predator, and I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. I could see that happening. And the thing is, I think that what's happening with the world now, you're seeing so much AI, and there's a new app that you can tell it what you want it to make pictures and write about, and it will.
Yeah.
I think I saw one. An example on Facebook where it said, the example to the AI was, hey, AI, I want you to draw me a picture and a scenario of Mario being arrested in the Mushroom Kingdom and being tried in front of a court, And it started, the AI started making up a story and making, graphics for it. And I think in the future, people will be able to walk into, a room and probably like a holodeck or something, and say, hey, I want to see a story where Optimus Prime owns his own Energon hot dog stand, and, the Jurassic Park dinosaurs are starting a band, and Johnny Carson is running around the street naked. I mean, you could just say anything random, and I think that these AI machines will create the entertainment that you want to see, and in a holographic way. Not even holographic. I think it'll be VR.
I could see that in a VR situation.
Yeah, I wonder, is there a VR Transformers game yet? That would be something.
It's possible. I'm not sure. I know there was something I saw just today about some new VR game that I think was based on 80s property, but I can't remember what it was.
The world is becoming crazy. I mean, have you heard all this stuff with the new AI stuff? How they say that, like Elon Musk said that if we don't merge with AI will eventually turn on us and take us over. But if we merge with it, we have a chance of keeping the peace.
I mean, that sounds good from a science fiction standpoint. Where we're at right now, I don't see how we're going to merge with AI.
Well, Elon Musk has a presentation called the Neuralink presentation on YouTube, and he explains it. They're practicing now on brain dead. So they have a room full of brain dead people in comas and things like that who have signed their bodies away to science. And since they're already brain dead, you can't destroy their brain. So they're practicing on them, and Elon said that we should have a Neuralink in the next 10 years, which would be really weird because they said that there's this one commentator, he was some kind of a journalist, and he said that, well, if the Neuralink does everything Elon is saying, if somebody were to get these Neuralinks, it would be like us talking to like gods or people who have the Neuralink are talking to us, and we would seem like monkeys to them because they would have such a capacity to store and process information.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. trying to merge that with humans, though, you'd have to find a way that doesn't blow out our, let's say, natural storage capabilities of our brain.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because, yeah, we don't use a lot of our brain, but, and again, this is all science fiction because that's all I know about. If you do use all of your brain, your entire body burns out after a little while because it just can't keep up.
Right. Like the body was only designed what it was designed to do, and when we start tampering with nature, it doesn't work. So, let's go through some of the Transformers series. After the original series in America, we had Beast Wars. Isn't that what came next?
Yes.
Which now they're trying to put the Beast Wars into the new movies. But I heard that Beast Wars, standing alone, is actually a really terrific series. Have you watched any of that?
It is. Oh, yes. The funny thing is, with Beast Wars and its later predecessor, Beast Machines, I was initially against them. And then it took me a little while to warm up, and now I'm firmly on board. Honestly, to put it in like a Star Trek comparison, Beast Wars is like DS9.
Right.
Because you have a lot of character development.
So you're saying it's actually
long, overarching storyline.
It's better written than the original series, would you say?
Oh, way better.
Wow.
I mean, they do still have some clunkers. There's an entire episode where it's nothing but burps and farts because of the energon they ingested.
Oh, come on. Are you serious?
Yes.
Man,
in fact,
crazy.
there was a funny story with, I think it was Gary Chalk who voices Optimus Primal. I think I was at a con and he was there talking about one of their sessions, and they would record these all at the same time and everything. And they were doing that episode, so everyone's drinking Cokes and whatnot, and to try and get the burps out and all that. And apparently something happened, and he had this huge, like, bubble come out as he was trying to burp, and then just instantly suck it all right back in, and then they're like, okay, cut.
Man, I've always wanted to be a cartoon voice. How awesome would that be to voice a cartoon, especially a cool one?
I wish I had those skills.
By the way, let me go ahead and just pull a sci-fi nerd factoid. Did you hear that they're... First off, let me ask you, have you ever watched Babylon 5?
I've seen bits and parts.
Oh, man.
I haven't seen a whole lot of it.
Do yourself a favor. I just want to mention to the geeks out there and the nerds, Babylon 5, they're announcing the release date of a new animated movie starring the original cast.
Oh.
And I am
cool.
I'm stoked about it. I know we're bouncing all over. It's because my brain is kind of ADD today, and I'm just whatever. I have no excuses for how my brain works. I'm just maybe mentally ill, but
it's the way people are.
You're right. The best people are. I don't know. I'm just so excited. I want to talk about everything. My brother and I were talking about how the G.I. Joe the movie, okay, the one with Don Johnson, that
animated movie, yeah.
The animated movie has one of the most brilliant beginnings ever, where Pythona is breaking into Cobra, one of the Cobra bases. One of the
Terradrome.
It's called the Terradrome?
Yep.
It's one of the best opening sequences to any movie I've ever seen.
I absolutely love the background music during that, too. Like, I have that in my car I play.
Wow, I have to go and I have to rewatch it because I forgot how the music goes. But just that scene where she's breaking in and she finally makes it to Serpentor's feet, and just everything she says, I never forgot it. It's something like, he's like, I have seen, and he says, in a dream, she says, in a memory,
yes,
and something like, when you were born, my image was etched into your soul. She says something like that. My image was etched into your soul. And Pythona it's funny when you're a kid, the things that sexually arouse you. Pythona, she was weird looking, and she had like her head shaved except for one big ponytail that came out. But I was very attracted to Pythona. Am I alone here? Were you attracted to Pythona too, or am I nuts?
I don't. No, I mean, you're probably not nuts. There's a large contingent of G.I. Joe fans that are very into her. I don't remember being attracted to her as a child.
But what about the Baroness?
I mean, she was already. I was the weird one that, like, I had a crush on, like,
Lady J.
Babs Bunny from Tiny Toon Adventures.
I had a crush on Babs Bunny also, man. I have a tattoo. True story. I have a tattoo of Babs Bunny on my back.
Nice.
My friend Terry from my old band, he's like, he gets into everything for a little while. He's like a master of different hobbies, and he's like, I'm going to learn to do tattoos, and I'm going to practice on you. And so he did like the Planner's Peanut Man on his brother's ass, and then he's like, come on, I'll do a tattoo on your back. My brother's Planner's Man turned out all right. So that's just a fun factoid for my future wife. There's a Babs Bunny waiting for you on my back. But what I wanted to mention about the G.I. Joe movie, and I know you're a master when it comes to G.I. Joe too. You know everything about them and everything. Now, the movie I thought was just so fantastic. My brother and I thought it was very interesting that they tapped into how Cobra was Cobra Commander specifically came from kind of like a prehistoric race.
Yeah.
That they went underground in hiding or something, and then Cobra Commander went on to form Cobra, and it's revealed that he's not human, and somehow he was mutated by these spores that existed. Now, where was Cobra-La supposed to be? Was that like Antarctica?
Himalayas, I believe.
Himalayas. And it was an underground base that this prehistoric race of... what were they? Because they, one of them could fly, the Nemesis Enforcer. Wasn't that his name, Nemesis Enforcer?
Yes, it was.
He could fly, but Globulus was part like insectoid, and there was kind of an insect thing happening as well as a snake thing. And what were they really going for there? Because it was weird. You know what I mean?
Well, their whole big thing was taking back the natural order of stuff, because the apes had went and evolved and made inorganics their everything that their race is based on. So they were very much like, hey, let's get rid of all that, make everyone beasts, and go back to the beast stage.
Burgess Meredith played... His name was Globulus, right?
Yes.
That just sounds like such a perverse name, Globulus. Hey, baby, my name's Globulus.
Well, I mean, he was all tucked in his little hover globe thing, so...
Burgess Meredith, okay? When you're a kid and you're hearing Burgess Meredith, there's a part in the movie where I think he takes, if I'm not mistaken, it's Sergeant Slaughter or someone, and he is twisting his neck. And I remember as a kid, it was such an impactful line that my brother and I used to kind of like pretend we were breaking each other's neck. And he said, "The last thing you will hear is the breaking of your vertebrae."
Yes.
Was it snapping? The snapping of your vertebrae.
Yeah, I think it was snapping, yeah.
Oh, my God. That was just so intense. And I remember for the longest time, the new recruits in G.I. Joe were Jinx, Tunnel Rat, Chuckles, and some guy named Big Bob, I think.
Big Lob, because he was very basketball themed.
So, Big Lob? Like a lob of shit? Like, what do you mean lob?
Like lob, like I'm lobbing something over the fence.
Are you serious?
Like throwing a ball. Yeah, Big Lob.
I honestly have I'm learning a word for the first time today. Lob. I lobbed something over the fence. You lobbed it.
You've never heard lob?
No, this is the Mandela effect. So, lob, and then you have Globulus, was the head of, Cobra-La. We thought it was funny because we're watching the end of it because we didn't even know about G.I. Joe the movie. We just saw it on TV at my grandma's house, the end of it, and we saw them flying through the air, and instead of going Cobra, they were going Cobra, la 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 la.
Well, and here is where all that comes from. When they first were making the outline of the story and everything, they wanted to come up with a place for where Cobra started, and they came up with Cobra-La in the Himalayas, and it was based off of Shangri-La.
Oh, Shangri-La.
And that was just the placeholder name.
And then
they were like, we'll use this until we find something better.
And then someone came up with the bright idea to like mock terrorists or something of the Middle Eastern origin. They're like, hey, instead of Cobra-La, why don't they go Cobra la 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 la?
Yeah.
Who smoked the joint at the G.I. Joe creators meeting? Like, hey, man.
I'm going to say it was marketing people, because it usually is marketing people who make these crazy ideas and go, no, that's a great idea. I love the Shangri-La connection. Let's just keep with that. Because, honestly, there is a large divide in the fandom when it comes to this movie and everything dealing with Cobra-La, including Cobra Commander's origins.
Yeah.
Because in the comic books, he was a disillusioned car salesman who was getting screwed by the government and decided, no, I'm going to make my whole other Cobra.
Wait, are you trying to tell me that the original origin stories in the comics, Cobra Commander was a disgruntled used car salesman?
Yes, and I think the government came in and took all his money because of the taxes or something, and he was like, I'm going to start a terrorist organization.
No.
Yes.
No, it's so funny. Okay, I wanted to mention this too because it's very important. I want to get the action figure, but it was really expensive, I think. So, for those of you who don't know, Cobra Commander actually, I guess after he, was kicked out of Cobra after the movie for a while or whatever, and went on his sabbatical or whatever, he became a guy in a trench coat with a hat. His name was, I know you know his name. He was in Transformers.
Old Snake.
He was Snake.
He was in the Transformer episode Only Human.
I want to rewatch that. So yeah, it's actually Cobra Commander, which is funny because we all know, every Transformer fan and G.I. Joe fan knows that Chris Latta voiced Cobra Commander and Starscream. The question is, did they get to interact in that episode?
No, I don't believe so, because I think that episode happens in season 3, so Starscream is dead by that point.
Oh. Right, because he died in the movie.
Yeah.
But his ghost came back in one episode.
That's true, and it even makes a return in Beast Wars at one point.
Really? Starscream?
Yeah.
Does he come back as a ghost or like a...
He's a ghost.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I thought Beast Wars is before Transformers, so what, did he time travel or something?
Yes.
Wow.
Beast Wars is technically, the characters are after Transformers, but they go back in time to before Transformers, or at least before Transformers wake up on Earth.
Right.
And there's always some sort of time warp singularity thing that something winds up coming through, and all of a sudden, hey, look, here's the traveling spark of Starscream, and he inhabits one of the Transformers in Beast Wars and possesses them for a short time.
Wow, so Starscream basically becomes like a demon. He's possessing people.
Yeah.
Man, they've got some great toys out now. I saw a Starscream toy, and it comes with like the crown and everything. And
oh yeah, I got that one.
It looks great. Did you get that?
It does.
So I tagged you on Facebook with the new Optimus Prime. Did you see that with all the gears and everything?
No, I did not see that.
Oh man, so there's a new Optimus Prime that they have out there, and it's got it's very posable, but there's a lot of gears for whatever reason that when you're positioning them, that there's like these movable gears. And then I saw a Prime that you can talk to. It's like it has like some kind of an app in it, and it transforms itself and everything.
Yeah, that one is stupid expensive. I will probably never own that one.
How much is it?
And as it is, hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Wow. Okay.
I forget the exact price.
You can get a used one.
I looked at it. I was like, that's cool, but I already have at least 5-6 really good primes as it is. I don't need one that does that. I don't do anything with it. I just look at it and tell it to do stuff. And I'm like, where's the fun?
I think it's great that you have a supportive wife that allows you to gather all your toys.
It helps that she also enjoys toys too, so
Which is funny because people are like, "Oh, my wife enjoys toys. Hey, mine does too." No, I mean action figures.
Yes, you can actually always count on me to not think about what I'm saying when I'm saying
I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to bring a woman home from the bar and be like, "Would you like to see my toys?" She's like, "Oh yeah, show me your toys." This over here is the Deep Space Nine.
You got to do the tried
figures.
and true. Tell them that you bring home like 5 figures a month. So they're thinking you're loaded.
Man, you got to let me know the next convention. All right, well, listen, we need to wrap it up for now. Our first podcast definitely had a lot more usable information for the public. But we're going to have to... Well, what I did before we started the podcast last time is I actually wrote down like all the questions and everything, and it was cool. And then I saved that somewhere, but I lost it because I just moved,
Oh, yeah, that'll do it to you.
Yeah, but this was a good podcast for just kind of like reintroducing, Scott to the public. Scott the historian, or maybe we can give you a better name, Scott the collector.
I'm fine with toy historian.
Scott. I know it's a long title, Scott. Scott the toy historian.
Yeah, that is true. We'll have
Scotimus.
To workshop the name some more.
Scotimus.
That sounds like a medical problem.
I got Scotimus on my left ass cheek. Somebody help me.
Need a steroid injection for that, sir.
All right, so listen, we're going to end the show with you giving some recommendations to people about series they should check out as far as G.I. Joe, Transformers. What could the people out there, what could you recommend? I mean, we're going to do Beast Wars. Definitely, you said was written well. What else?
Yeah.
What were the name of the Japanese
so
ones?
Much.
Hold on, let's go. So just tell people
the
again.
The Japanese ones is Headmasters, Super Godmaster Force, and Victory.
Okay.
You can find those DVDs all over eBay. They're starting to get a little pricey now, though. Like, you might be paying upwards of $60 per DVD set.
Right.
But each series has at least, 30 to 40 episodes, so it's kind of a good deal.
All right.
And they're all subtitled, not dubbed.
And G.I. Joe?
G.I. Joe, I mean, the classic series is still good.
And who was your favorite G.I. Joe?
Ooh, that one's
hard. And by the way, going back to the new recruits from the G.I. Joe movie with Don Johnson, I always wanted to get the action figure of Big Lob. But you know what? They only had Effin' Chuckles, they had Tunnel Rat, which I bought, he was cool, and then Jinx. But they never...
Well, they finally fixed that.
Did they come out with Big Lob?
Yes. Now, the problem is they came out with a classic vintage O-ring version of him.
An O-ring?
And they came... Well, that's what the original toy line is typically referred to as. The construction of it, there's a rubber O-ring inside the chest that holds the legs and chest together.
When you pulled the legs and the torso apart, there was like a black, thick rubber band and a hook.
Exactly. And newer figures do not have that anymore. Like, they haven't had that since 2007 or so.
Okay.
And those are called, modern era. They've made a Big Lob for both those types of series. Now, your problem is they were G.I. Joe Collector Club exclusives, and they've been out for like well over 10 years, and G.I. Joe toys have gotten super hot since the pandemic.
Okay, so really? Pandemic has
Oh,
made
yeah.
the Joe's prices go up?
Oh, prices have gone insane on vintage
Wow.
stuff. I'm so glad I finished collecting like 10 years ago.
You finished collecting what? The Joe's?
Pretty much. Like all the vintage stuff I wanted. There isn't much of the vintage I don't have.
Right.
There's some, but it's stuff that I'm like, I don't really care
Well,
about that as
what
much.
are you collecting now mostly?
I've been collecting the new Transformers series, which is modern interpretations of the vintage figures. And I've gone
okay.
back to collecting vintage 12-inch G.I. Joes.
Oh, okay.
That's been my big collection this past year now.
I want to get the next time you see me. You guys are gonna have to come over sometime, or I'll come there. Whatever.
Yeah,
I'm
because
going
I don't.
if I'm gonna find Old Snake, I want the Old Snake action figure.
Oh, I could probably make you a custom of it easier than getting you an original one.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, the Collectors Club reused molds that Hasbro used for their figures, so they're of Hasbro quality, but you could find these parts most places. Typically, the head would be a new piece or something like that.
And I want a Pythona action figure so I can sleep with it.
And they did make one of those in modern era too, but it's again Collectors Club figure, so it's very expensive.
Money is no object.
You say that. You don't.
I'm joking.
I've seen toy collectors that say that, and I'm like, I don't know where you got them thousands of dollars at.
Yeah, I'm kidding. All right, man. We're coming up on an hour, so we're gonna stop. But hey, Scott, thanks for being on. The next one, we're gonna be more prepared, and like I said, this one was good because we just kind of like off the cuff. It's real natural. But next time, I'm gonna have my sheet and all the questions. I'm gonna take some real good time, and we don't have to just talk about Transformers stuff. I mean, you've got a life, you've lived it, and you've probably got some cool stories to tell. And
I've probably got some stories I should never tell to anyone on the internet.
That's true. That's true. But we could keep it, sci-fi. I'll leave you with this. What sci-fi series are you watching right now, or anything cool? What does Scott the historian watch?
I'm trying to think of sci-fi series because
the toy historian.
I've been watching a lot of like comedy series lately.
Oh, yeah?
Like I've just finished running through Parks and Rec again.
I've heard that's good.
It is. I would say that it's one of those shows that it takes a little time, but it has massive payoffs by the end. Again, like DS9, for some little funny comedy show, there's a lot of character development over the 7 seasons, I think it is.
Parks and Rec, that has, does that have Chris Pratt in it, or is that Community?
Yes, that is the one with Chris Pratt. Community had Joel McHale.
Well, how many seasons does Parks and Rec go?
7.
It's worth watching all the way through.
I recommend it. But, some people don't always like my tastes. And that's just the way these things go.
All right.
I've also been checking out old failed series that didn't get very far. Like I'm currently watching this one called Deception.
Yeah.
It's about a magician that helps the FBI because criminals are using other magicians to pull off heists and whatnot. It's really good, but it apparently died after the first season.
Well,
it was some ABC show.
These days, it is harder because it's easy. It's easier to get a show, but it's harder to make it get renewed.
Yeah.
So because there's so much competition now, like they're willing to kind of say, okay, we'll give you a shot, but the competition out there, if your show is not getting the clicks and the watches, I even heard that because of piracy, they canceled the Hannibal series, which I thought was really good.
Really?
That's what I heard. I don't know, but It's not easy. Well, I got to let you go, man. I got to do some things over here before I end the night. So,
Yeah, not a problem, man.
thanks for being on. I'm going to probably upload this in the next couple of days. I'll let you know. But until next time, and hey, let's get together with the team and go out and watch a movie or something.
Hey, I'm down.
Let's force them to watch animations.
I mean, Fathom Events does keep showing Transformers and G.I. Joe movies.
Dude, that would be awesome to see one of the originals. I love Fathom Events. They have the best. I just went and watched the Spirited Away live action play from Japan. You ever see Spirited Away?
No, I haven't.
Oh wow, go you should go watch that. All right, well I'm gonna let you go. Have a good night, dude.
All right,
All right, bye bye.
you too, man. Later.
Later. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Wild Eric's podcast, or the Wild Eric podcast. Getting used to the transition with the new name. I'm not exactly traveling anymore, so